It's a very good afternoon. Welcome to ZTN News Blitz. Let's take a look at our top stories. Workers' government face-off looms over reduced salaries. COVID-19 clips Zimbabwe's AIDS levy collections. MDCT keen to engage ZANU-PF. And in sport, Zimbabwe golfer Scott Vincent pushes for PGA tours. Civil servants are set to start receiving salaries this week, but with much discontent as the money has been heavily eroded by inflation. The salaries will most likely be less than what they have been earning in the past 4 months, as the backdated payment of $400 to $500 lapsed last month. The least paid workers will this month receive an average of 2,500 Zimbabwe dollars. Apex Council Secretary David Zatsunga says the situation is grim.
Up to now, everybody is going to get last month's salary minus maybe about 400 or 500 that was then supposed to have been spread over 4 months. So it will be actually less. Yeah, it's terrible.
Public Service Minister Professor Paul Mavima says they will soon convene a meeting to address the issue.
We are aware of the erosion that has taken place, but we have to follow the procedure. And we are waiting for Minister of Finance, Treasury to provide the necessary mandate so that the NJNC can convene a meeting for discussing a review of the salaries of civil servants.
Meanwhile, Zimbabweans continue to fight price increases, with official data showing that annual inflation surged to 785.55% in May, up from 765.57% in April. The Zimbabwe National Statistics Agency, however, said that the month-on-month inflation rate in May was 15.13%, down from April's 17.64% on its official Twitter account. This comes as figures from the Consumer Council of Zimbabwe show a $1,500 spike in the cost of living for the low-income family of 6. Zimbabwe's AIDS levy inflows have fallen by over 50% since the onset of the COVID-19 lockdown. The figure is drawn from employees' salaries in the form of taxes monthly. When the lockdown was imposed in March, some firms either laid off workers or significantly slashed employees' salaries. This in turn resulted in a significant reduction in the fund's coffers. Zimbabwe, through National AIDS Council, on average collected 53 million Zimbabwe dollars monthly through AIDS levy. But in April, the figure dropped to around 21 million Zimbabwe dollars. National AIDS Council's chief executive, Dr. Bernard Madzima, told ZTN that COVID-19 lockdown had negatively impact on the levy inflows and HIV programming in general.
You know that the AIDS levy was set up to ensure that we procure and make sure that drugs, commodities to do with HIV are available. So, and it's money which is collected from companies, it's AIDS and employees. So this is an AIDS levy, which is collected from the income tax from the employer, from the employee. So what has happened because of the lockdown, some companies have folded down. People have not been going to work. The inflows for national AIDS have actually been impacted negatively. In terms of figures, I can say that we've had almost like a 30% reduction of what is coming to the organization.
Still with health, Acting Health Secretary Dr. Gibson Mhlanga says Treasury has released $5.6 million United States dollars to acquire 90,000 PCR test kits and other consumables needed to run COVID-19 tests. Dr. Mhlanga, who was presenting oral evidence in Parliament earlier today, added that these test kits will see the country running 30,000 COVID-19 tests monthly for the next 4 months.
For now, as we speak, we have 15,000 test kits on the ground. We are expecting an additional 20,000 test kits this week. I was actually expecting them on Friday, and these are a donation from Africa CDC and the AU. But additionally, the Minister of the Government of Zimbabwe availed a total of 5.6 million United States dollars, and through NatFarm, we are procuring a total of 90,000 test kits. So going forward, for the next 4 months at least, from my calculation, because that money has been released, there is no question about it. For the next 4 months, we are not going to have a challenge of testing based on the target that we have set for ourselves to test at least 30,000 people per month.
Dr. Mhlanga allayed fears that Zimbabwe may be missing some cases of the virus as a result of what critics say is inadequate testing.
South Africa has tested 4.5 people per 1,000 population. India has tested 0.7 people per 1,000 population. Iceland has tested 148 people per 1,000, and Zimbabwe has tested 3.4 people per 1,000 population. So you can see we are at 3.4, South Africa is 4.5. Okay. The figures, to me, statistically, there is no difference in terms of the testing between Zimbabwe and South Africa.
Meanwhile, the price of blood for private patients in Zimbabwe has gone up by 133%. The National Blood Services of Zimbabwe announced new prices on Monday night. Patients in private hospitals will now buy a unit of blood for 8,400 Zimbabwe dollars, up from 3,600. National Blood Services spokesperson Esther Masunda said the new prices have been necessitated by the rising cost of consumables and raw materials used in processing blood.
Further to the price increase for blood and blood products for private health institutions, which was circulated yesterday, the 15th of June 2020, we hereby wish to advise as follows. The critical raw materials and consumables that are required for collection and processing of blood components have continued to escalate as a result of the current inflationary environment. National Blood Service Zimbabwe is procuring these products from the local market at a premium which is over 240% as compared to the current interbank exchange rate. The cost of utilities such as cost of utilities, donor refreshments, staff costs, blood bags, test kits have also tripled due to depreciation of the local currency. Therefore, it has become necessary to adjust both the cost of processed blood components in order to be sustainable and to maintain the quality of our product.
Police Commissioner General Godwin Matanga says councillors who are illegally issuing letters to allow the public to enter the CBD face arrest. Matanga told lawmakers today that councillors have no right to issue travel passes.
I now have evidence that there are now sitting councillors who are also authorizing people to go into central business districts. But in terms of the instructions I got during this exercise, the councillors have got no right to write these letters. And I will make sure maybe by the end of the week, I want to lock in 2 or 3 councillors so that we present that one as a proof.
The police boss also admitted that the police is hardly observing social distancing while on duty.
And the question of social distancing, I mean, in clear terms, it is now very difficult for me to observe this social distancing. Why? You have 2 lorries and you would want to deploy 100 officers. If I think of deploying maybe 5 officers per any given time, by the time we try to get all the numbers we want to the situation, it would have exploded.
The Commissioner General also confirmed that there is corruption involving police at quarantine centres.
It is very unfortunate, Honourable Chair, that these reports have come to my office, and it's true. You would find that, especially in Harare, I haven't heard of any shortage of food. But in the remote areas, maybe the food does not get to a center in time, and the quarantined people would be having their own money. Instead of them going to some centers, they will end up even giving their cards to the garden, police officers. And at the end, they also offer food to my officers who are deployed without food. I don't know how you come out with the equation.
The faction of Zimbabwe's main opposition party, which is led by Dr. Thokozani Kupe, says it will engage the ruling party, ZANU-PF, at all levels to advance what the party says are the interests of the Zimbabwean people. The faction, which wrestled party headquarters from Nelson Chamisa, held its inaugural National Standing Committee meeting at the Morgan Tsvangirai House on Monday afternoon. Speaking to the media, the faction's Secretary General Douglas Monzora says the party's engagement with ZANU-PF will be multifaceted.
We are an opposition party, but you will find that we are an opposition party that is going to engage with ZANU-PF in the manner that Morgan Tsvangirai's leadership engaged with ZANU-PF. And the engagement with ZANU-PF was multifaceted, multi-pronged. So we are an opposition party. We are going to hold the government to account.
Botswana has lifted the lockdown on its capital, Gaborone, after most of the latest reported cases of coronavirus turned negative. The Southern African country emerged from an extreme lockdown on May 21st, but restrictions were reinstated in the capital last Friday after new cases were reported. The Health Ministry said 10 out of 16 suspected new cases had tested negative. The remaining 6 cases are awaiting confirmatory results. The cases were detected at a private hospital and the government laboratory. WhatsApp has launched its digital payment service in Brazil as the messaging app capitalizes on its popularity in emerging markets. The move comes as parent company Facebook pushes ahead with plans to bring e-commerce to its platforms. WhatsApp Pay allows users to send money to one another for free or make purchases from small businesses. In January, Chief Executive Mark Zuckerberg outlined plans to offer the service in India, Indonesia and Mexico. On its blog, WhatsApp highlighted that the launch was part of a wider digital payment strategy across all of Facebook's platforms. We move now to sports, where Scott Vincent pushes for PGA Tours. Scott Vincent says he will need to stretch himself by pushing for PGA Tours. In football, Arsenal boss Mikel Arteta is positive about agreeing to a new contract with 30-year-old striker Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. The Gabon international's current deal runs out June 2021. Arteta says the club must show that he is valued and he needs to feel he belongs to them. Aubameyang, on the other hand, has said a new deal at this stage is possibly the most important decision of his career. And that's all from us at ZTN News Blitz. Thanks for watching.